You said how many of these were built?
14,249.
14,000 were built.
14,249, of which 6,521 were built in 1967. And 1967, as you've heard, is the most popular year.
So what does veloce mean? Fast. Fast. Yeah. Veloce. Is it fast?
By vintage car standards.
You're a lucky man. You've got two Alfa Romeos, both are 67, and you've got the road version and you've got the race version.
Roger.
So let's look under the hood of the race version. Let's see what we get.
All right.
So this is the 1750.
1750.
And I mean, is it just the size of the cylinder that determines the 2000?
Just bored it out a little bit bigger.
More, yeah.
And as they did expand cubic inches, if you will, they did have to relocate how they bored in the basic block, which they did back in the day.
And four-cylinder?
Four-cylinder.
Overhead cam?
Twin cam.
Yeah, not overhead. Yeah, overhead.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
overhead cam, twin cam.
Yeah.
And a very free revving engine. Alphas are famous for needing to run at higher RPMs than you would another car. So you start to really feel the power, and it runs nicely, starting about 3,200.
And for the race car, I see you've got a much bigger...
big radiator.
And nicer hoses, race-style hoses.
Mm-hmm. And a tremendous amount of work in the suspension. And things like the transmission. It's got a Schwitter short-throw transmission instead of the standard 5-speed that you've got in a street car where you'd be moving that shift lever.
Nice short throws.
So
what's it like
smooth.
to be on the racetrack with this?
A lot of fun.
A lot of fun, yeah. I love the exhaust note. It sounds fabulous for a four-cylinder. If somebody heard it, they'd be really surprised. It must have a free-flow exhaust as well.
Actually, we've got a muffler on it so that you could take it on the street.
Yeah.
And I actually have it licensed and insured for the street. Now, if anybody ever pulled you over and did an inspection and started to look for headlights and details, we might have a few issues.
But the little wire mesh on the front of the car just looks fabulous. I mean,
thank you.
It says, you know, this is an Italian race car.
It's seriously set up as a race car, as you can see with the roll bars and everything else.
And that off switch, right, that just turns off electricity.
Shuts off all the power so that it doesn't drain when you're not racing. And if you forget to do that, you'll kill your battery and be in trouble.
And you've got a fuel cell in the back, and you've got a roll bar in the car. It's an all-out race car.
So this is a 2000 cc, whereas the race car is 1750. Both are race-prepared engines, And in fact, when I first bought this one, the engine mounts were billet aluminum, which caused it to be like a giant speaker in terms of sound coming through the car.
Must have vibrated your fillings out.
Yeah, and the wife wasn't going on any tours in a car that made that much noise, so we put conventional rubber engine mounts in it.
So this one's more powerful, actually.
Yes, but the 1750 revs more smoothly, and if you read all the reviews and listen to people talk about the cars over the years, most people prefer the 1750 engine.
Now, you were saying you race vintage cars of the same era, so 2002s, BMWs, right?
Right, and Datsun 510s.
And of all things, an AMC Javelin.
And of course, in B sedan these days, you're often racing against the Camaros, the Mustangs as well.
Yeah, that's a lot more power. Because how much do you think this is putting out? 100?
Oh,
50-ish?
Stock, they ran about 125-ish, so this is probably about 150.
That's what I thought.
Yep, about that range.
And
the handling on a short track gives you a big advantage. And then the reason I love it, as opposed to that other race car, that the 61 Alva, which is only 22 inches off of the ground.
Yep.
You've got some sheet metal, some roll bar, and some visibility with your Camaro drivers and your Mustang drivers, so that they don't
run you over
as you take them through the apex of a turn. The rules are, of course, once you're slightly ahead of the driver, you own the turn.
Yeah.
So long as they see you.
Yeah.
Yeah. In this car, they see you.
Have you gotten into some pretty good scuffs? Oh, this is fiberglass, right?
Plexiglass all the way around. No, I've not had. I've never stacked up a race car with another car.
No.
I have stacked up a race car out at Skip Barber.
Yeah.
Long, complicated story.
But not racing.
No.
And does your adrenaline pump? I mean, do you feel like you're
After you've raced a while, I think all the guys will tell you that they're used to stepping up very calmly. And they're focused on being calm so that they can really pay attention in the start and while they're racing.
Hit the apex and really hit your brake points.
You
just get the most out of the car. Be smooth.
Be smooth.
Yeah.
And I think all of my racing friends probably have the same approach. Get calm, get settled, and get heads up.
Do you think that there is a difference in terms of how hard people race, because they are racing these classic old cars that, you said there were 13,000 of these, but I bet you out of those 13,000 a lot
14,249, 6,521, made in 67.
67. But out of all those cars, probably a lot of them have ended up, unfortunately, at the junkyard at this point.
Sure.
Right? So there aren't that many of these left. And I mean, you feel that when you're racing, that if you pile this into
no, because it can all be fixed.
Okay, but it must hurt.
Yeah. On the other hand, against racing really expensive cars like a Lola T70 or Aston Martin DB4 GT,
it's not that expensive.
You're under $50,000, and $10,000 goes a long way on fixing things, and racing is $1,000.
Yeah, so it's not a cheap sport, and
it's not a cheap sport, but this is a cheap way to do it.
This is a cheap and fun way to do it. Now, this is a street car, but of course it's not original either, so you don't feel bad driving it.
Actually, these came initially with four-wheel disc brakes.
Yeah, that's great.
5-speed transmission.
Today's car.
And then we go from there.
Yeah.
So instead of the cracked vinyl dash, why we have a nice suede dash, we've got the crinkle black finish on there and fairly decent interior. And then the suspension is all new and done, but it's fairly standard on this, unlike the race car, which is highly modified in suspension.
Windshield wipers. Which is
windshield wipers, and I've been caught in the rain 5 or 6 times in the last 30 days, so we've seen the windshield wipers work.
Has it ever left you stranded?
I've never been stranded in that car.
How about that one?
I let the battery die foolishly at a race last year once.
Yeah.
Went out, ran out of enough battery, and managed to pull all the way back coast into the pits. But I was out of the race. I didn't finish the race because we left the battery on.
All right, last three questions. First of all, if you had to pick, which one would be the baby you'd keep? That one. Okay, so your heart's with the race car.
Yes.
Why?
Because it is a good race car,
Yeah.
and I've got protection, unlike some of the little fiberglass things that I've raced in before. And as I get older and more fragile,
You
that roll
appreciate
bar
it.
is nice to have.
Yeah.
And it's competitive in its class, and I can have a lot of fun with it.
Which one's more valuable?
I would say the race car.
But they're both, you said, under 50,000.
Oh, way under.
Way under. Okay.
Yeah, way under.
Under 50,000. So these are cars that you can get into without having to write big checks.
Right.
These
These are not 300 SL Roadsters. They are not AC Bristols.
what's your best moment of that one?
Oh, I've had a lot of fun with that.
Tell me you've passed a Mustang in it.
Oh my goodness, we do that all the
Yeah,
time.
all right.
There's a real nice guy, Bill, who drives one of the original Hertz Mustangs in our MVR.
Yeah, the black and gold ones.
Yeah, Bill's a gentleman, and we don't have much trouble getting by him.
How about a Camaro?
You'd be in trouble.
Yeah?
You might get by him through the turn, but you're going to get taken down the
That's
straight
right.
pretty badly.
Well, thank you for sharing these cars with us. Really appreciate it, though. Thank you.
Good fun, Roman.
Yeah, I kind of feel like I'm outside of Rome.
Actually,
See a cigarette.
I actually have a Rome plate still on my 60.
Really?
Spider.